Okay, welcome everybody. So omnichannel is definitely one of the most exciting areas of investment from the D365 team. So it's my great pleasure to welcome EY, who's going to be talking to us about it today. So over to you, EY.
Thanks so much, Scott. Really appreciate the introduction. As you say, Omnichannel is really one of the new emerging major products. It's had a very slow ramp up, quite under the radar, but more and more people are starting to take a look at it, and it's really exciting in terms of what they've done. I mean, the product itself is only just over a year old, and I want to talk a bit about a couple of the features for it. Now, I don't think there's been anything else done at UG around omnichannel yet, so I'm really happy to be able to do that. The agenda, which is not for today, I forgot to change that, it's only for this afternoon, and it's been a long day for everybody, and hopefully you've all been enjoying the sessions. I know I've been pulled out of sessions into virtual client meetings, so I've had multiple Teams sessions running. Thankfully, browsers allow that to happen. I'm going to give a brief introduction of who I am and a bit of information around me. I'm going to give an overview of what exactly is omnichannel and what it actually means, because it sounds really great. You know, big long word sounds complicated. I'm going to go through some of the benefits to clients. I have a couple of scenarios I'd like to discuss with you, show you how it can benefit your clients and in turn benefit your clients' customers and back up to the clients as well. Going to do, hopefully, as Scott alluded to just before, a live demo. I've prepped my family to stay off my internet connection, not to disturb me and not to do any printing or anything, because that will disturb all of it. So hopefully this will actually work. I'm going to talk a bit about the Wave 1 2020 release, which came out a couple of weeks ago, and some of the new functionality within there. And finally, I'm going to allow time for questions at the end, though if there is anything that is relevant to what I'm talking about, feel free to pop up. And Scott, feel free to raise a hand, let me know that there's some questions around it. So with that in mind, let's kick off. So who I am, as opposed to who am I, which is a totally different question. Well, my name is EY Kalman, and I've been active in the community for a couple of years. This is my first time speaking at the D365 London Reading UG, and I'm really honored. It's even more stressful for me because this is absolutely virtual and I can't see the reaction from anybody on this at all, which is delightful, of course. And my slides, are my slides still on the screen?
No, we've lost your slides, it looks like.
Hold on one moment. My display just decided to cancel itself. Apologies, technical malfunctions. Right, let me just get that back up and running. It's great as I'm saying that it's the first time that I'm speaking and then there's a technical. Right, let's go back to where I was. Nope, that's the wrong window.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah, that's really the wrong window. Okay, let's switch that back around. And hold on.
It's those 60 displays that you have, you see, that's what it is.
No, I know, you see, loving technology, it's really
matrix.
Really annoying. It's not as good as your code wall, though, I will admit. So, as I was saying, it's my first time presenting and really honored to be doing so, and absolutely petrified because this is all virtual and what you just saw happened hopefully would not have happened in real. It's also, as I said, I can't see the reaction. I'm a Dynamics 365 and Power Platform solution architect, recently joined ANS Group here in the UK. I've been working with Dynamics 365 for quite a while. In fact, I remember the days it was called CRM. I go back to 3.0. And what else can I say about myself? Oh, I'm also a father now of 3. Our latest edition, our daughter, the youngest daughter, was born just before lockdown. I think my screen's just disappeared again, hasn't it?
Yeah, we just lost the presentation.
Okay, let me just try reconnecting my screen. Thankfully, I actually built in time to the presentation around this, and I really apologize to absolutely everybody who's watching this, who is probably thinking tech guys and their technology.
Well, it's usually if we're in person, we can't get the projector working or something like that. So,
Yeah, these things are extremely annoying. I'll tell you what, I'm going to Okay, if it happens one more time, I'm going to attempt this without my presenter notes. I'm going to be really, really brave because I don't want people to be inconvenienced by this at all. So let's, no, okay, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. This is really brave of me. I'm doing this without any assistance whatsoever with presenter notes. Not only first time presenting, but we'll do that. And then afterwards, I'm going to throw my second monitor out the window. It was working fine this morning. It's like it's all there. It's all great. So
yeah, like Deborah says, we've all been there, right?
yeah,
everything works until the last possible minute.
Yeah, everything does work until the last possible minute, including the fact that I'm now going through multiple screens trying to find where my actual screen is. Okay. So,
nice.
Father of three, my daughter was born just before, a week before lockdown here in the UK. I also, being the CRM ninja, it's not just about ninjas and ninjutsu. I ride a ninja motorbike, and my own personal brand is the CRM Ninja. With that in mind, I'm active on social media, LinkedIn, I blog regularly, I have an interview series as well that I do totally not around technology, but around people's stories, and I'm active on Twitter. I'm actually curious how many people in the community are not active on Twitter. At some point, I may actually be able to find that out because it seems to be everything is happening now on Twitter. I was also absolutely flabbergasted when, totally out of the blue at the end of last year, somebody senior in Microsoft reached out and said, "Hey, UI, we like your stuff. Here's a present." And they gave me my own aka.ms, which I thought was absolutely really, really cool, and thanked them most profusely and sent lots of presents their way. So that's about me. You can feel free to reach out on social media if you wish to, no problem. So Omnichannel, what exactly is Omnichannel? Well, I can tell you for one thing that it's not this. I decided to put this up because it's a really cool picture. This is the channel tunnel. You know, your tunnel goes through, and I thought omni-channel, channel tunnel, cool picture. This was done actually a couple of years ago when they closed the tunnel for maintenance, and the pedestrian traffic was allowed through for 2 or 3 days. You could walk through it, you could bike through it, and they recreated the picture from when it was originally built and the two sides joined. But this is not omni-channel at all. It's just, as I said, a really cool picture. This is omni-channel. And you know, I put omnichannel routing because it's about routing. Omni comes from omnis, which is the Greek for all. So literally translated, it means all channels. And the aim of it is that all the channels that a company may be in can come through into one location. They may be thinking, going, okay, but we're already across multiple channels. What's the benefit of omnichannel? Well, the simple answer to that is it's coming through into one single place. So unlike previously when you've had to have a web team and a social media team and a phone team and everybody handling different stuff and data across different systems, it's coming through into a single place. The benefits of this as well is that you can offer your customers more interaction through different channels which may not have been on, either because of the cost or because you don't have people trained up in it or because you just don't know how to use it and you don't want to have that. And because it's all flowing through into one system, you can do all of the rest of your regular business processes around it. So things like case management, knowledge management, surveys, everything you would normally be doing and looking up data, you can provide regardless of what channel it's actually going through. So that is what omnichannel is in a nutshell. Now that's a bit longer than an elevator pitch. I need to get it down to like 20 seconds. You know, I just say omnichannel. It's really cool and awesome. You have to go check it out. But unfortunately, that doesn't really sell to clients. Now, what are benefits to clients? Well, I have two specific scenarios that I would like to share today. The first scenario is training. We all love that, going in, training up clients, seeing how well clients have been trained already, how well they know their systems. Customers spend a massive amount of time, resource, and money on training up their staff because their staff need to know the systems. And what you have is you don't have just the initial training, but then you have upgrades training and differences. And as people move around, if you think back to when you started your company, your first week was probably doing a load of onboarding across multiple systems and working out what they go and what data goes here and what data goes there and how things are done and logins if you don't have a single login enabled across the entire company infrastructure. But training actually works really well with Omnichannel. And the reason for that is because this is the user interface. And I'll take a drink while you take a moment to look at that. So this is the actual user interface. And this is the user interface regardless of what channel the customer is engaging with the company. On the, let's see if this works. Yes, this is a Logitech Spotlight presenter, which has some really cool features. I don't get any money for saying that, by the way. On the left-hand side, you have your conversations that are coming in, regardless of channel. They all appear in the same way. So you could have an agent interacting with somebody across Facebook, across web chat, across SMS, all of that, and they're all coming across the same way. The agent interaction, which is next to it, they're interacting again in the same way. It's all via text. It's there. They can see the trail of the conversation. They can scroll up, they can scroll down. Attachments can be received and can be sent, regardless of how the customer is actually coming in to you. So if you think back to training for a moment and how many systems you need to be trained on, you don't need to be trained on multiple systems. You need to be trained on one system and one system alone, at least for this purpose of being able to deal with customers. So you've come down from multiple systems and the hours you need to spend on each one to a single system. Not only that, you don't need to worry about forgetting how all the different systems works. And when it comes time for upgrades and new releases and stuff, again, it's one single system. This is a really, really great benefit. Also available, I'll just point this out and I'll show this to you in the live demo, which hopefully will work, is the main part of this is the information is surfaced for the contact you're with. If they're coming in pre-authenticated using Power Platform, Power Portals, or whatever it's known as, or another way of authenticating, the information will pop up there on the screen already. It's all there. If they're not, you can ask them some questions, you can work out who they are, you can look up an existing contact or account, you create a new contact or account, or both if you want to. But you can see the information there. It's really clean. People who are used to Power Platform, model-driven apps, or Dynamics 365 will know this. It's laid out nicely, and all the information is there to the fingertips. So it's actually really quickly able to be picked up. I've trained people, and they've picked this up in a couple of hours, at a very basic level. So you're not talking about absolute days and days and days of training. And what you do is you can build in your business process flows around this sort of thing. One of the other items that is a real great benefit, and this always brings a smile to my face when I say this, because inevitably a couple of people are going to roll their eyes and a couple of people are probably going to put their heads down and go, oh no, he's going to talk about that. Compliance. Haha, I wish I could see your expressions now. I really do. Now, I worked in a financial services company for just under 4.5 years, and not only were they based in the UK, they were multinational under almost a dozen different jurisdictions and regulatory requirements. I'm very familiar with compliance. I remember when GDPR came out, I had to make sure that the system was compliant for GDPR. But how can Omnichannel itself work with compliance? We're going to talk about 3 different compliance items. The first one, things like passports and credit cards. Now, passports, driving licenses in the USA, social security numbers, they're what people refer to as PII or PI2 or PI squared, a lot of different ways to pronounce it, but personally identifiable information. You need to be very careful with this because you can't let it leak out. You can't let people just take it away. Only appropriate people who should be able to see those sensitive information such as dates of birth, the addresses, memorable information, of course, things like passport numbers, driving license numbers. All of these are very sensitive and need to be controlled. If you want to talk about control of information, something that's even more important than PI2 information, as I say it, are things like credit card information. You can't store credit cards willy-nilly in the system. You can't store credit cards unencrypted in a database. Any developers who may happen to be logged into this will know, if they've done any databases with credit card stuff, you don't even start looking at alternatives. It's hashed, one-way hash. You shouldn't be able to unhash it. It needs to be stored very, very securely, because not only do you not want just random people browsing through the system to be able to see it, you also want to avoid the problem of if you get hacked or there's a data leak, this getting out, because you're talking about fines. And you're talking about major, major, major fines at this point, all of which are something you really do not want to be playing around with. So Omnichannel helps with this. It's got controls in place that allow you to specify the type of sensitive information and to control who can see it and who can't. And I'm going to show you an example of this. The second item for compliance is abuse. And we think, hold on, abuse, compliance. We all want our own staff and our clients, customers and our clients, to be treated in the right way. And there are HR policies in place. And, if you talk to customers or you read stories in the newspaper or you hear recordings of people starting to yell, starting to be abusive, and they say, we are not continuing, we will terminate the conversation, the chat, the session, if you continue in this way. So much in the same way as we can specify what's sensitive information and hide it, we can specify abusive information, and such as swear words or derogatory language, and we can hide it as well. We can protect our own staff. That's not something that we're going to get massive fines for if we have a problem with. We want people to have a positive interaction and be working in a positive environment, and to show that we're complying with internal HR policies, of course. And the third one, and if you didn't roll your eyes when I put compliance on the screen, hopefully you will now. Well, maybe not hopefully, but I'm sure some of you will be doing so. Auditors. Yeah, I said that. Whether they're internal auditors or external auditors, and some companies are fortunate enough to have both, they need to come and make sure that you are satisfying your regulatory controls. It's not their job to start digging into the systems to work out if you're meeting the controls or not. It's your job to provide proof that you are meeting the necessary controls in place, whether that's around financial information or personal information or sensitive information. If you think of things like local authorities, children in care and stuff like that. And it's your responsibility to provide this information to the audit teams. If you have a dozen different systems, you need to show that you have controls for a dozen different systems. So it's a dozen different folders of lots of information, or nowadays probably PDFs, which you need to give over and you need to maintain. But the benefits of Omnichannel is that all the channels are coming down into one single location. They're all coming down into the CDS, which means that you only show that one system is compliant. You've got a dozen different systems before you move to Omnichannel. You've just reduced your workload by 11 items. You've got massive more time to devote to the system and business as usual. Great. And you don't need to worry that you made a mistake somewhere in one of the copies of the different systems. Other benefits when it comes to things like auditors are security controls, because you're going to need a security model in place. And again, if you have multiple systems all working differently, you're going to need to have different security models in place. And then you're going to probably need to have a document that will explain how all of your different security systems and models actually come down to a common theme. But with Omnichannel, which is built on Power Platform and Dynamics 365, you have the inbuilt, out the box, very, very, very powerful control, because the security model is there. Massively powerful, as anybody who's ever played around with it and implemented security will know. You can do things in massive amount of different ways, but it's there. You also have the auditing function, which is turned on. You can turn on for fields. You can see what's been said, what's been done. If a customer would turn around and say, I had a chat and they didn't mention this particular piece of information that they should have or they needed to in the chat, you can turn around and go look at it. It's date time stamped. You can see who's edited it. You can see who's created it, who the user is, and you can provide this as proof. So some really, really powerful and interesting stuff. And compliance, especially in today's day and age, is a big, big issue, as I'm sure you're all aware. And this is something that Omnichannel can help with. So 2 scenarios in mind. Now, with that in mind, I'm now going to hopefully switch to a live demo. We've already seen that my tech has been playing up a bit. I thought I had it covered. See, I was thinking this morning, what could I do to ensure that I was able to demo properly? And well, this came into mind. The demo gods. My children might be wondering why some of their toys are not really around anymore, but I'm just going to look very, very innocent. So with that being said, let's jump into a live demo when I'm going to adjust things. I need to sit down in order to use a keyboard. All good from your end at the moment, Scott?
Perfect. Good stuff.
Wonderful. Okay, let's see how this goes. Because I haven't been practicing this on one screen. I've been practicing this on lots of screens. So the first thing we're going to look at is this. Can you see the omnichannel interface, Scott?
Yeah, we can see it perfectly.
Wonderful. Okay, step one of the live demo has worked. We have an environment and it's there. I'm just going to change my status on this to available. So this is what it looks like. This is some chats that I've been having earlier with different people. This is the main part of the screen that I can now see in here. This is a summary. If I see here, this one, somebody said H, right? I can see a summary of the customer that's going on. I can create a new customer from here. I can, if I switch to the Tires Direct one, I can see that this is an account and the phone number. There's no chat survey, pre-chat survey, because you can do pre-chat survey questions, as you'll see in a moment. I can see information around how it actually went. I can even see details of the visitor if I've set this up properly. So I can see if they've been authenticated, their location, the browser they're coming on, and the queues that they're going in. So that's really quite cool. And I have tabs at the top. I can create new items. I can do dashboards. I can do activities. In fact, I can actually surface from here anywhere within Dynamics that I could normally go to. So accounts and contacts and queues and knowledge base articles, it can all be in there. And this is per interaction with a customer. So if I open up accounts on here, for instance, I can now see my active accounts and there's there. And I switch to visitor 2. I had it open there already. Okay. So if you can see it's not there now, and I switch back to Tires Direct, I can still see it. All the tabs open are relevant to that particular chat interaction. So if you switch between your chats, because a customer service agent will be likely to do that, they can see everything that's relevant to them. And you can create other places in the system. And effectively, as long as you can serve something up within a web window, you can do it with the URL. You can set that within the Omnichannel Administration Hub for agents to be able to access. So with that being said, let's take a look at a chat experience. And now I need to find, So this is a customer. And what the customer has done, the customer's taking a look. And I've got exhaust systems for motorbikes because I'm a biker and we love this. So they're taking a look and they're thinking, oh, I'm looking at exhaust. I really want an exhaust for my bike, but I don't quite know what the right one is. I know what. I'm going to get on a chat. Now let's hope that this works. So in this bottom, the bottom of the screen over here, we've got the chat window. And this is actually a custom icon that I've put in. So you can put your own company logo and you can brand this through some branding through the Omnichannel Administration Hub. But something they released really, really recently is it's supposed to, I haven't tested out yet, pick up the theme of the website that you are on. So I've got a blog post for testing that out, hopefully coming soon. So let's chat. Now, these are pre-survey questions, which I set up a couple of. So yeah, they own a motorbike and yeah, they want to purchase safety clothing. And these are very useful because we'll see in a moment, not only are these served up to the agent when it comes through, but you can use these for routing to specific queues. So if you had a very, very large company and you had different customer service units, depending on whether you bought a large item or a small item or clothing or something else, the answers that you put here can be used in automatic routing through to an appropriate queue. So let's click submit and let's see what happens. Now, apparently I'm next in line. Brilliant. I'm supposed to be the next one there. The message here can be customized. You can see I put, hey man, welcome to Biker Awesomeness. One of the pro biker helpers will be with us in a moment. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and force it to appear in the window because this should have appeared. Sometimes it can take a few seconds. It's really annoying when it takes a few seconds to do, I will admit. It's coming in. No, it's not coming in that window. Oops. Problem is I'm switching across. Oops. Hold on a moment. Let me just pull back to the. There we go. Exhaust right. Hold on. It's. So you see, obviously, my children's toys aren't good enough for a full demo to work. Because what is supposed to happen here is I'm supposed to be able to get a prompt that says that it's an incoming conversation. So I'm just going to change my status. And let's see if the conversation is actually there in the background. The one thing is it doesn't play particularly nicely with the screen being in a different configuration. So I can't open it from there, which is great. Now let's close one of these down. See if that will very nicely prompt. Ah, there we go. Ooh. Accept. So, visitor 3, and it said that Tash Lemma, okay, has signed in. Now, because I'm not authenticated, this hasn't picked up any customer in the system. What it has done is it's populated these pre-chat surveys. So I can see that the customer has a motorbike and they do want to purchase some safety clothing. So I'm now going to flip between the two. This is joyful, and work out exactly what the customer wants to do. Now, one of the cool things about this is that we have something called quick responses. So what this does, and it's going to be slightly slow in loading, of course, is that it allows pre-populated conversations, here we go, to introduce. So if you wanted to say an intro line introducing yourself, you can use one of these. And that will go through. And it will come, and you can populate with variables to be filled out by the agent name and the location and a variety of other things. So I'm going to hold a conversation with myself because that's great. And we see that coming through. We can see the trail of the conversation. You know, if I wanted to attach a file, I could upload a file. That's a picture of me. I'm not going to send it through for the purpose of this demo. And I can say, right, I could, if I wanted to, I could go consult the stock at this point. And I can say we have a so I've said we've got it in stock. Customer service agent it's in stock. It's great, and the customer says, brilliant, I want it. And then the customer turns around and says, and I'd just like to point out that this is a fake credit card that I'm using. And they put in their credit card number. Now, as you can see, the credit card number has now disappeared from the screen. This is data masking, which is what I was referring to earlier. And you can set this up as you want. Now, there are a couple of things to point out here. Number one, it's masked it on the side. So you're thinking to yourself, hold on a moment. Customer's thinking, well, what's just happened? So what you could turn around and say is you could turn around and say, we don't accept credit cards. Through chat, we'll send you. My fingers are just trembling slightly for doing a live demo, so that's why. And we'll send the invoice. It's also, you know, tagged out on the agent side, so they can't see the person that the sensitive information. And in the database, in the CDS, and in the record of it, it's also masked out. So nowhere the sensitive information is stored, and you can't reverse engineer it. Talking about auditing controls, this is something you would normally need to do in a number of places and make sure that everywhere is working fine without a problem. But here, it's working fine, and it's brilliant. So you say, okay, that's wonderful. Right, somebody's zipping something. Okay, and this isn't just credit cards, as I said. This can be other things, and I'll touch on this very briefly in a moment. So you say, okay, right, we don't accept credit cards. We'll send you an invoice, and it goes, right, okay, the invoice is fine. So we say, right, that's great. And you can turn around and say, I'd also say he wants a helmet. Now this agent doesn't actually know about helmet, so he says, right, So he's going to transfer to a different one. What you can do is you can collaborate with multiple agents on the same chat with the customer, or you can actually transfer it through to somebody who's able to. And in this case, we're going to transfer it through to myself. So transfer initiated, and on this screen, which is another screen, I know multiple personalities, so there's nothing based on needing to play multiple personas on this, and I'm going to accept it. So the conversation has now been transferred. And there we go. And the agent who's been transferred to, I can scroll back up through the chat. I can see all of the information again. The data's been masked, as I pointed out. It says, right, we want to do a helmet. So they can work out what's the best way to do it. So what we can turn around and do is, they could continue chatting, but then the agent says, I've got a better idea. Would it be via video chat? There is voice and video chat, which has been released as part of the Wave 1 2020. And crossing all fingers and all toes, let's see what happens. Incidentally, at the top here for the agent, you can see that there's a sentiment analysis, which is now slightly positive. That's automatically done. So if we click here, and I'm really praying that this works, we can click video call, and that will then prompt us. And what we can see here is we can actually see a video. This is a live video feed. Now, you can't see me as the agent on the live video feed, and the reason you can't see that is because Teams is taking up one of the multiple webcams that I have attached to my system, so I can't do that. But I'm going to be doing a blog post on this in the next week or so, showing the two-way interaction. And we say, right, hey there, it's great to see you. I'd really like, to help you out with your helmet. And the customer says,
man, really appreciate it. I'm looking for a cool new helmet.
Ah, you're looking for a cool new helmet. That's really good. We have loads of them in stock. Sure. Can you tell me what you've got at the moment?
It's all right, but a little heavy, and I need to take it off each time.
So the customer has a helmet already, and he's nicely displaying it. Right. He has to take it off. It's a bit heavy. So I can now pull out different helmets that I have and show him, and I pulled out a really cool carbon fiber one which weighs less than an orange and is absolutely safe with flip up and everything, and the customer seems really satisfied.
Ah, that's amazing. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Let's go ahead and get it.
Sure, no problem. We can be with you within 48 hours with DPD. Just make sure it's signed for. It's an expensive and fragile item, and just be really careful with it. We hope that you enjoy your riding.
Coming back for more gear soon.
So a little spotty connection, but if anybody can guess who the actual customer is, then feel free to drop me a line. You might win a prize. So you can turn around and do this. Two-way interaction. You can do via voice or via video. The customer will be prompted within their browser to accept and to allow it or not. So you're not forcing a video interaction on them. With that being said, and with an eye on the time, let's go back.
There's a couple of questions. I don't know if you want to quickly address those. So Yogesh asks, is it still integrated with Cafe X in the background?
No, it's not.
Okay, right. Well, that's an easy one.
Richard asks, when you say integrated, are we talking about the video stuff or the general things? Happy for you to unmute.
If you want to maybe clarify that, we'll quickly move on to. So Richard asks, can you teach the sentiment model? That particular example there showed a slightly negative, but was a positive experience.
So the sentiment is based on Azure AI sentiment in the background, and I don't believe at this point that you can train it. The experience from, it says slightly positive. It can change. It's very interesting to see. If you start throwing in colors into a conversation, you can quite quickly see what colors are positive or negative. But at the moment, I don't believe that you can train it, at least not through Omnichannel directly.
Okay, and then Richard goes on to ask, can you change the chat bubble color to meet the customer's own branding, like with D365 themes? Would make reading transfer chats easier.
Yes, you can. There's a load of customization. As I mentioned before, they've recently done it so the general theme takes on the website theme, but I haven't yet played around with that. That's on my list of things to do. But it used to be you can only change a couple of the colors in the logo. There's a lot more you can do. What you can also do is if you're escalating through an Azure chatbot or a Power Virtual Agent, there's a lot of other branding that you can do as well through it.
Okay, and Yogesh goes on to clarify. So I think he's asking whether or not if the omni-channel actually, if you've got an existing deployment of Cafe X, will it use that for both video and chat?
No, the functionality is absolutely new and it doesn't use any of the Cafe X stuff to the best of my knowledge.
Great, well, that's all the questions for now.
Wonderful. So I'm now going to end the chat. You can see it's finished. Incidentally, once the chat is actually finished, the customer will have the option. I know it's not configured on this one, but they would have an option to be able to download the transcript or email the transcript. It's not configured in this particular demo environment, so that's not there. Wonderful, talking about something that isn't there. But I've got stuff on my blog and various articles. I go through the omnichannel stuff quite heavily. So, right, let's continue. I've got a couple more things to touch on. Thankfully, that live demo didn't go too badly. You have no idea how relieved I am about that. So, data masking. And I'm just going to stand up again because I don't need the keyboard anymore. So we'll quickly switch around. There we go. So what I showed you before in the demo, the live demo, and talked about in terms of compliance is using data masking. And data masking uses something called regex. And I had no idea what regex is. I'm not a developer. I don't write code. I know, Scott, I'm on the opposite side of the aisle to you, but we're still friends and I'll still buy you a drink. You can buy me a drink, swap t-shirts and stuff. But regex stands for regular expressions. And what you can do is you can use a regular expression, or regex as I like to call them, to put in for data masking purposes. So the one that I used during the demo was for credit cards and actually works across all credit card types, whether they're spaces in the number, hyphens in the number, or just solid numbers. The one on the screen at the moment, I believe, is for UK driving licenses to confirm if it's a valid driving license number or not, and if it is, then it will hide it in certain formats that they can appear in. But there are editors out there in which you can actually go and create your own. And Ryan McLean and Megan Walker, as you can see from the link on the screen, in February brought out a blog post talking about the 10 examples that they see about with Forms Pro. But it's not just about Forms Pro. You can go ahead and create your own ones. Now, there are two things to keep in mind, which is number one, if you do a generic regex editor online and see the examples, because you put in the expression, you can see the different formats and the parts of the expression, the variables, then you can use test data and see what the results are, which you can do in Omnichannel as well. When you put it in, it shows you what the test data is and what the result would be if it matches the criteria or not. But there are some differences sometimes between how Omnichannel interpret it. So if you're doing it online, just double check when you copy it into Omnichannel that it's actually working. Sometimes it will come up with some very interesting errors because it doesn't quite like the formatting of it. Now, within Omnichannel itself, the Omnichannel Administration Hub, you set up data masking. And to my delight and surprise, when I first came across this, I realized you can only create 10 data masking records. That's right. And it's a hard limit. This is not something that some companies would want. They've got a lot more scenarios. They want to hold credit card numbers of different types. They want to hold driving license. They want to hold medical information, possibly a massive amount of stuff. So a hard limit of 10 could be really limiting. But I was playing around with this and researching online and doing a load of other stuff and feeling really cool to be diving into some dev things. And I found the pipe character. Now, for people unaware of the pipe characters, it's like a straight vertical line. And it's one of the special symbols on your keyboard or via character map and stuff. You can use the pipe character to help get around, because although there are 10 records as a hard limit, each record has a 4,000 character limit. And you can copy and paste or create multiple regex expressions in a single record, separating them with a pipe character. And the system will interpret them as different regex expressions. So you don't need them all You don't need them all together in order to satisfy. Everything within one set of pipes is one, and then it moves on and moves on, and we'll evaluate against all of them. So you could have tens, dozens, hundreds. I would think if you're starting to get into sort of hundreds of data masking records, you might want to think about a better way to handle things, as that's going to be a time and a half to keep on the top of and to try and print out and to show at some point for audit controls to show that you are handling it properly. But really helpful, really useful. Go take a look at it. I'm sure you can all think of scenarios. Okay. Very quickly now, because I think I've got about 5 minutes left to talk and then a couple of minutes for questions. Wave 1 2020 release. This came out about 2 weeks ago, and for the most part went quite well. A couple of little hiccups and stuff along the way. I had some people contacting me around some issues they had, which helped troubleshoot and raise support tickets and stuff, but a lot of stuff in there, which is really, really cool. Because when it first came out, the features that it offered, the Omnichannel offered, were chat, SMS, and Facebook. And that was it. There were some third-party potential integration tools, but they weren't quite on Channel Integration Framework 2.0, which is what Omnichannel runs on. But with Wave 1 2020, we have the following. WhatsApp integration. I'm sure everybody is using WhatsApp, or if not everybody, practically everybody, is using WhatsApp. So you're enabling your customers to reach out to you across more channels. They can immediately contact you via WhatsApp. Twitter. You can DM, you can set up a company account, you can interact. So you're allowing your clients to contact you via more and more channels. And as we saw earlier in the interface, you can pull up the history of them. So I can interact on Monday with WhatsApp, on Tuesday with Twitter, on Wednesday on Facebook, if I still use Facebook, on Thursday with an SMS, on Friday with a web chat. And they can see all my history. The same agent can see it, whatever chat I'm in, whatever day I'm contacting them. They can see how I'm interacting over time. Co-browse and screen share. So the ability to see what your customer is seeing. I mean, what we saw earlier with the webcam is great. You can see the customer, but sometimes you just really want to see the customer's desktop, see what they're seeing, or help them interact with it. Microsoft haven't released this functionality themselves as part of the Microsoft offering. Instead, they've released a set of APIs, which companies like LogMeIn are hooking into. I'm in the middle of talking with LogMeIn about the product at the moment, and there'll be some blog posts coming with them and with some other companies too. So you're able to do that and see and share the screen, and that will come up within the window. So you're able to do it. It will come up not within the chat window itself. It's a separate screen, because otherwise you're going to have it very, very small and you won't be able to see the screen properly. But again, it's really, really cool. Now, somewhat topical possibly, but for people who know what WeChat is, great. For people who don't know what WeChat is like WhatsApp on steroids. And WeChat is immensely popular in the Far East and the East. So if you think of places like Korea, Vietnam, China, Hong Kong, all the rest of that, WeChat isn't just able to send messages backwards and forwards in images and voice clips and call. It allows you to pay for things online at merchants using your phone. WeChat, you tap it with NFC technology and it will go, or you can send money through it. It's got a sort of eBay interface as well with its own marketplace. You can buy and sell things through it. It's massively popular. In fact, I think from the last statistics, it outranks WhatsApp by about a factor of 5 to 1. Everybody is on it. Friends who travel regularly to the Far East, and they use it when they're there, because in some places you just can't function without it. So any companies that operate in there would want to be able to offer their customers a way of interacting via WeChat. And lastly, Teams. Haha, couldn't leave Teams out. Now, Teams integration, again, it's surfaced into the same agent experience, but it's only for internal teams. I don't know if Microsoft will allow it externally at some point. I don't know, to be honest. I can't quite see the exact scenarios where that would really work very well. But if you're a large multinational company, you've got an internal customer service thing, say for engineers, they can contact through Teams on your mobile and stuff. So it's all encrypted. It's on the company system at both ends, and it's all there. Something also to mention are desktop notifications. So with desktop notifications, which came out as part of the recent functionality, will get a prompt if you're not on the agent screen. Now, previous to that, if you weren't on the agent screen, you're looking at a different tab, a different window, or a different system. You didn't know that a conversation was coming in. Now you have to authenticate it within the browser. It's just allowing notification pop-ups and a couple of other bits and pieces. But if you're not on the agent screen, on the agent hub, you will be able to get a notification in the bottom right of your window, served through Windows, to say you've got an incoming chat. Do you accept it? If yes, it will pop up the chat window and take you back to the hub immediately. If not, you'll continue the day. So with that, I'd like to wrap up. Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn or blog or Twitter if you've got any questions. If you'd like to see something, as I said, I blog regularly about some functionality. Feel free to drop me a line. I'd like to thank Scott for his introduction and for hosting it, and to open this up for any questions. Thank you so much.
So excellent session. Anyone got any questions they want to ask finally? Well, I think that's a wrap then. Well, thank you very much, UI. It's been a fantastic session, and a lot of people have been saying in the chat how good your demo was. Obviously, a lot of work has gone into that demo, so thank you. We really appreciate that.
Absolutely a pleasure.
Everyone remember to fill out their feedback form. And I think if you could all join me by doing a virtual round of applause, if you can unmute your mic and join me in a virtual appreciation for EY. So thank you very much.
Thank you all for attending. Really appreciate it.
Excellent. Okay, so there is the Ask the Experts session next. So hope to see you on there. So thank you very much for attending.